Welcome to the premiere of On the Grind, the first of what we hope will be many. I'm your host, William Neal, Communications and Government Affairs Officer for Belize Sugar Industries Limited, BSI. On the Grind is a magazine-style broadcast show designed to inform, educate, and communicate with viewers the machinations of the northern sugar industry. Yes, simply put, how it all works from the farm to the factory and everything in between. In fact, we will also move beyond the northern sugar belt to our markets in CARICOM, Europe, and hopefully beyond. The show, produced by the Communications Department of BSI, was born out of a discussion with a northern parliamentarian who shared our belief that the northern sugar industry is often misunderstood and undervalued. If you live in Orange Walk or Corozal, you probably know that the sugar industry is the lifeblood of the North. It is a socio-economic and cultural way of living. South of Orange Walk, however, people may think it is merely a hotbed of contention and controversy, but it is one of the country's most consistent contributors to GDP and foreign exchange earnings. The show, via feature stories, spotlights people, successes, challenges, transformation, and the evolution of the industry as we journey to sustainability. Transformation from raw bulk to direct consumption sugars and improved efficiencies from field to factory and shipping logistics while improving environmental stewardship. It has been a long road to get here, but here we are. Finally, and this is not the end, but rather just the beginning. We have studio interviews and recurring segments from field correspondents. Are you excited yet? Because I definitely am. Let's get into our show for today. McLachlan is Belize's country manager. In our first sit-down, he talks about his transition from diplomacy to now leading ASR's investment at BSI in Belize. He talks about challenges, triumphs, and the industry's future.
It's been a fascinating journey and one that is very, very interesting and in some ways revealing as well. I find that the great thing about this sugar industry, and it's probably the same for many sugar industries, is that this is not just a business. This is an industry that supports many, many livelihoods, has, a real socioeconomic angle to business. And I find that fascinating. I think, when we're all working together, when we're all constructively trying to improve what we're doing, and building, a foundation for a future, it doesn't get much better than that.
What would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned during your time in Belize?
I found out how important weather is. It may sound pretty obvious, but you have everything in a row. You've got your budget set up. You've got your mill in a good position. You've got some kind of understanding of what cane supply is going to be. And then suddenly everything changes because, for example, you have a drought, you have too much rain, you have a lot of mud coming. And, we keep very, very detailed records against budget of what we expect to achieve on a daily basis. And, it's just dramatic to me to see a business that can be up or down 20% either way as a direct result of the weather.
Now, what would you say is the greatest lesson you've learned, though, in terms of maneuvering and negotiating within the industry itself?
Well, I think there are two main things spring to mind. Well, one of them is tolerance. I think you have to be a reasonably tolerant person to navigate a very wide range of topics, issues, problems. The other, of course, is resilience. Sometimes you think about life as a little bit of a roller coaster. One minute things seem to be going really well, the next minute they're not. And that takes a toll. And I think it's really important that people are resilient, that they understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and that you are able to take the ups and the downs and manage yourself and your attitudes against those kind of parameters.
Now, the relationship with the farmers has been perhaps one of the most challenging areas to negotiate. What would you say is your attitude towards interactions and negotiations with farmers?
Well, for a start, some of the most memorable and enjoyable interchanges I've had have been with farmers. And, farmers is a big word. There are a lot of different types of farmers, and there are a number of different associations. What I've enjoyed most is the collaborative approach that we have with a number of the associations and their leadership and their general membership. I love nothing better than getting out, talking to people about their cane farm, talking about the challenges they have and trying to help. I really enjoy that. But yes, there have been challenging times as well. I think, for me, one of the bigger frustrations over the last 9 years that I've had here or coming to Belize has been the failure of our ability to everyone get on the same page and to look for a more constructive future way forward where we're all working together. I think that's been a big frustration. But as I said, the people tend to equate everyone in the same way. And there are many, many different characters. There are many, many different types of people there. And in general, we have a really good relationship. I think when it comes to, some of the less cordial times, and we've had a few problems here over the years, often I think it's due to misinformation. I think it's due to people not really understanding and genuinely not understanding exactly where the business stands, and particularly where the mill stands on issues. And I would just say that the biggest challenge, I think, has been open communication. What I've found is that where there's open communication, there tends to be a meeting of minds. When there isn't open communication and when there's miscommunication, that's when things start going wrong. So, I think, as I said, it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey with a number of my very good friends in the cane farm. It's been a lot more challenging with others, and I think that's something we all have to work on to overcome for the future.
Now, we have done a lot in terms of transformation at BSI, from going from a raw bulk sugar facility to direct consumption sugars. How important is that as a part of the strategy to ensure our sustainability well into the future?
Well, I think you have to take a look back down the road, because 2013, the European Union made a decision to really deregulate its sugar industry. In the past, what happened was beet sugar had a certain percentage of the industry, about 80%. Cane sugar, imported cane sugar that's then refined in the EU, had about 20% of the market. And it was controlled that way. What that led to was a fairly stable and preferential market for the industries that were supplying, particularly the cane sugar, into that market. And then the decision was taken in the EU that, no, we must deregulate this. We take away these quotas. And it's everyone up for grabs at that time. Now, we knew that was going to have a major impact certainly on suppliers from Africa, Caribbean, Pacific countries who had traditionally had a home for their sugar in the UK or in the EU. We understood that. And we also understood that this was happening just at a time as a real downturn in pricing for sugar. I mean, the sugar is a commodity. It's a global commodity. It has a futures market. And at that point, the world was in surplus of sugar. And so we had a double impact of losing preference in value by sending sugar into Europe, but also that the overriding sugar prices, global sugar prices, were also very low. So that's when we had to make decisions. We couldn't carry on just being a raw sugar factory because we would go out of business. instead, thankfully, with the support of ASR's investment, we were able to move along that journey that you alluded to a food grade direct consumption sugar factory, and that's now 2/3 of our production. That brings a higher value, and it's helping to grow the pie so that we can share that value with all of the stakeholders, with the mill, with the farmers. And it's giving us a lifeline, particularly for times when the global sugar prices are very low. Secondary to that, of course, we worked hard to open markets in the CARICOM for those sugars, where we do get a preference in pricing. And I really think this is the way forward. I think we've got a great future, and it's really about how we take advantage of that.
Now, as country manager, what would you say is perhaps your pet project that you'd like to see you achieve?
Well, I wouldn't call it a pet project, William. I'd call it, further investment in this mill. We want to debottleneck the kind of bottlenecks we still have in the mill. This mill is, in a very good state, very good shape. I know not everyone would agree with that, but I think it is. And the mill itself could probably handle more cane throughput and could make more sugar, but there are certain stations within the mill that are bottlenecks to that. So what we need to do is to debottleneck them so that we can get this mill to run at its optimum, which would be about 1.3 million tons of sugar cane over a 180-day crop. And there's a couple of areas that we really want to focus on. One of the biggest problems we've had here, and it's related to the fact this is, an agricultural crop, is the weather. When it rains, we get a lot of mud coming in with the cane, and that slows the process and it causes problems. So a couple of projects we're looking at are how we get either stop the mud getting in the first place or take it out faster from the process. So those are really important. And there are other tweaks we can do in the mill to try and improve the consistency of milling and also the actual speed with which we can mill and still extract the sugar and make the quality sugars that we make. Beyond that, challenges. We have a 280,000 ton market on our doorstep in our backyard, which is the CARICOM market. We need, at some point, somebody in the CARICOM needs to move to refined sugar in order to really capture that whole market. And I would love that to be BSI. I really would. I think, that would entail a further expansion at this factory, more cane throughput, and it would give us a more resilient future because we would have yet more products to sell, widening our revenue stream. And those areas I'd like to get to at some point. But, many things have to change in order for us to achieve those things. And that's really the focus of all of our job at BSI, not just mine, but everybody's.
My final question for this first interview, which I'm sure will be the first of many to come. In terms of the immediate future, what do you see necessary as we move into this crop and perhaps into the next?
Well, I think it's fairly obvious at this stage that what we need is to have a much better, more constructive relationship with the BSEFA. We have very constructive relationships with other associations. We have long-term cane purchase agreements with them. We want to have the same with the BSEFA, but it's got to be based on fairness. It's got to be based on fact and not fiction. And it's got to be good for both parties. And I think, it's a real problem where we don't have a relationship like that because it really does interfere with our ability to invest here. If you're a business person who's saying, well, we'd like to invest more to do this or that, but you're likely to have another problem in another 12 months' time, it's going to make you think twice. So I think short term, what we need to do is to overcome whatever differences exist, work together on a future that's mutually beneficial. Farmers can rely, if we have the right investment climate, and that means some security, cane supply. In the last, number of years, we've seen interruptions to that cane supply for a number of different reasons, blockades of the factory and the like. There's no space for that in a modern sugar industry, not one that's going to move ahead and beat its competitors. And that's what we need to do. So I think, first thing we need to do is that people have to sit down with a cool head and say, okay, what's in the best interest for this? Because this is a real challenge. If that were to persist, as it has done in recent years, I genuinely would worry about the future of this industry. I think that, if we can't see a joint vision and work together to grow the pie and to ensure everybody's better off as a result, which is really what BSI have been doing for the last 10 years, then I think we've got a problem, a fundamental problem, and we need to resolve it.
From the country manager, we now shift gears to talk with our current production superintendent. Nolberto Leiva, fondly called Mr. Noli, is one of the longest-serving members of the BSI team. Imagine spending half a century, yes, 5 decades as an employee at one company. Mr. Noli talks about his journey at BSI, among other things.
Yeah, I started working at the age of 18. That is in 1973. I started working as an process apprentice under a training program, a 2-year training program. At that time, who employed me was Mr. Winston Michael, who was the factory chemist at that time, right? And we had Mr. Roger King, who was the manager of the factory at that time, and we had Mr. Gentleman by the name of Frank Curtis, who was the general manager.
Now, what made you apply for a job at BSI back then? Was this something that you knew you wanted to do? Was your education leading you in this direction?
Not really. When I graduated, I started working at the Shell gas station in Orange Uptown under the late Joe Brisenio. They were the owners of that, and they are still operating that gas station in Orange Uptown. Somehow, I think Mr. Winston Michael saw my potential in football, and that's how he invited me.
So he wanted you not to be a part of the BSI team, but the football team.
The football team, exactly. And that is how I ended up being here at BSI. He saw my potential, and then we had this, what we call the interdepartmental football competition between Libertad Sugar Factory and the Toril Sugar Factory. And that's how I came in to BSI, and they offered me this training program for 2 years. And from then on, I spent my 2 years as training within the process department. And thereafter, when I completed my 2 years training, I was taken to the laboratory to expand my knowledge in sugar processing. At that point, I spent a few years there as the reporting chemist. That in itself made me expand my knowledge in the sugar industry, because I started as a reporting chemist. It's like an accountant. I became a statistician, and then what I had to do was to account for sugar rather than money. I had to give account of the sugar coming in, how it was distributed, what we recovered, what were the losses. So that was my role in the laboratory.
What would you say was your biggest challenge back then?
At that time, I wouldn't see challenges, right? I would see opportunities to grow, because at that time, the company was looking to expand. And that is something that made me more look into what I can be, right? Seek to improve myself. And at that point, he saw my potential and he offered me a correspondence course as a lab technician, a 3 years correspondence course with ICS at that time. I don't know if you have heard of the International Correspondence School.
Yes, I have.
Yes. But that is what I took. And when I completed those 3 years, I got the opportunity of being promoted to factory chemist. Mr. Winston Michael, he went up as the manager for the plant. Sir John Gillett, who was my head of department at the time, he went up as production superintendent. And being the factory chemist, I gained much more experience. Why? Because then, as a factory chemist, I was involved in the relative king quality payment for the farmers. I was not only responsible for the laboratory itself. My role had to be sugar and molasses handling for exportation on the barges to Belize City. Also, in 1985, with the closure of the Libertad sugar factory, we had to start the out-of-crop period. We had to prepare the plant to start doing the direct consumption sugar, because then Libertad was the only plant that did the local consumption sugar.
Which is plantation
white
white sugar.
Right, and local brown.
Okay.
So all that equipment had to be brought during the out-of-crop period here at Toa Hill to have it installed in preparation for. At those times, we didn't have any the clarification was being done in batch system, right? The centrifugals to centrifuge the plantation white sugar were manual, where you had to do everything, fill it manually, take out the sugar manually, and things like this.
So you've seen the automating of the factory,
Yes.
from very manual and to what it is.
Yeah. So I was involved also I was also responsible for the packaging and storage of the direct consumption sugar. So my tenure as factory chemist really was very exciting. I saw a lot of the expansion that took place, right? I saw expansion in the mill. For example, we only had one tandem of 4 mills. I saw the expansion for the addition of the 5th mill. I saw the expansion of the 4th roller added to each mill. I saw the expansion of a continuous vacuum pan, batch vacuum pans with agitators. That is when ESR came into the industry, right, which was in 2013. A lot of expansion then took place. Additional evaporators, set of evaporators. We used to, for a weekend repair, we used to spend 22 hours. Now we are spending 6 hours.
Now, being in a place like this for 50 years, obviously you've gone through, as you said, you were reporting chemist, then you went into and all the different. How has that really prepared you to actually be in the position where you are now?
Well, I think, like I said, throughout these 50 years have been exciting for me. I put myself to look at these challenges, and so that I can to further my career then in this industry, right, or the plant itself, right. I focus myself on looking on ways to improve, right. I analyze things properly. I help to do improvements, solve problems, and also work with people so that they themselves can help me in the work.
A question then. So, because I think this is a good life lesson for anyone, right? Here you are 50 years in and you're still saying it's exciting. Most people would be saying, I'm ready to go home, right? So you look at it as an opportunity to learn and to continue learning. How much of it was formal and how much of it was actually on the job for you?
I would say about 75%.
It was on the job.
On the job.
Any regrets?
None at all.
Now, how do you keep learning and not grow comfortable in a certain position where you say, I like what I'm doing right now, and that's it?
See, the sugar industry is an industry that demands from a person a lot, right? And if you do not take up that challenge, you won't succeed. You need to be someone who, and I will say this, and I would encourage everyone working in the sugar industry. They should participate, contribute, work along with their people, so that the industry continues to be viable.
Now, I want to go back to something that you said earlier, because you spoke about some of the changes that were made once ASR came, right? And I know some of that has to do with the automating of certain elements of the factory. How critical in terms of competitiveness and sustainability that you just mentioned were those changes once ASR came to the factory? And maybe that's what made your life exciting still, right?
Yes, because simply, William, I never took a computer course, but I can handle a computer. I look at these equipments, the new technology, Seed Master that we call, which does crystallization of sugar. At my time, we used to do it manually. Now we look at these equipments now, right? Like I mentioned, very exciting. All around the plant, you see all these changes in new technology. And we have to adapt ourselves once you put yourself that you want to learn.
What would you say to someone who is 18, like the age when you started? What would you say to them if they were interested in something like joining the BSI team or ending up as industrial operations manager 50 years down the road?
Well, don't lose faith. Get into the industry. Very challenging. It will make you someone like me.
From celebrating the dedication and stellar career of Mr. Nole at Tower Hill in Orange Walk, we now journey to our improved logistics operations at Big Creek. In our recurrent segment entitled Out and About, Jeremy Gungara, who is usually behind the cameras, steps in front and files this feature.
Historically, one of the largest bottlenecks for the northern sugar industry was its export operations for raw bulk sugar and molasses. This outdated operation using tugs and barges off the coast of Belize City was costly and inefficient. With the dredging at the port of Big Creek in southern Belize, Belize Sugar Industries Limited decided to strategically invest $30 million Belize dollars to improve its export operations for raw bulk sugar and molasses. As a result of this investment, the cost savings and benefits for the entire northern sugar industry are huge. And you know what else is huge? These operations.
Well, as you can see behind me, it is a great and significantly big operations. Starting from the logistics park, the fleet of trucks that we have, our highly sophisticated warehousing operations, and obviously the way we export, right? We have very modernized equipment for our loading operations. Before, we used the tugs and barges. Um, it used to take days to transport from Tower Hill to the port of loading. Now it's taking hours, right? And one thing key to highlight is that this year we're even looking at better cost savings due to the use of the coastal road, right? We have reduced significantly amount of hours with just the use of the coastal road at the moment. The use of water transportation used to take days. Used to take over a day for it to be transferred from Tower Hill to the loading site. Now, with the use of the coastal road, we are down to 15 hours journey time, total journey time for raw sugar, and we're down to 13 hours for molasses. So that is on its own implies a lot of cost savings, and we're always monitoring the fuel efficiencies as well. Just to highlight that a couple of years ago, for a ship to be loaded of 13,000 used to take 21 days. This year, we're targeting to do a ship of 30,000 within 4 days. As you can see behind me, we have this modernized equipment, which is like a conveyor system, which is called a telestacker and a truck unloader, right? So this has the capacity of loading 500 metric tons per hour. With this high modernized equipment, right, we're able to load up to 8,000 metric tons a day. Basically, it is the trucks coming into the truck unloader, dumping the sugar, and then the conveyor pushing it into the holds of the vessel. As you can see, we're at the moment we're loading the vessel holds. We have a very systematic process. I think one of the coolest thing that I like here is the telestacker and truck unloader, right? It is remote controlled. And it is very efficient, and the reason that it was chosen, right, is that we have the mobility to move between holds, and our operators love it. It's just like playing video games.
But with high efficiencies and high control.
Obviously, yes. The key part is having high efficiency loading rates. Our customers are happy, right? We're always a customer service oriented company, and our key target is to ensure that we meet with your requirements. Before, we used to take over a month just to load a vessel, right? Right now, we're taking about 5 days to load a vessel, and their lead times are significantly decreasing compared to previous years. So we're keeping all our customers happy, right? And Jeremy, would you like your package overnight?
Definitely.
That's exactly what's happening, right? So we're keeping our customers happy. There has been a lot of challenges. Obviously, this is a new project and a new department, highly new department. And we went from having 13 persons in a department to about right now we have over 130 employees in this department, right? So the challenges faced was communication. We had to establish new systems to ensure that we are always key with our policies. Our key policies is quality and safety. Coming with a new operation came new learnings, and it became a new learning curve. And one of the challenges was the improvement of the fatigue management for the drivers. So those are the key challenges that we had the past year. I could name a lot more, but those are the two that I keep at heart.
Also, you're a manager and you're a woman, and we know that this industry is highly dominated by males. How has your experience been so far?
I think that being a manager, I do have key supervisors that are male, but I think that being a female, my key thing is empowering more or female. And one of the things that I have done in my department is when I arrived to this department, we had only about 3 key women leaders, and today we have 11 key leaders. So I'm always looking forward to empowering women and engaging others. I would like to congratulate the entire supply chain team for all the efforts. Each player that we have in the team connects the chains to the supply chain. One of the key players that we are very grateful to are the drivers. They are the ones who connect the Tower Hill operations to the Big Creek operations. They ensure that we transport raw sugar and molasses safely from Tower Hill to Big Creek.
How has your experience been so far driving from BSI all the way here to the Port of Big Creek?
Pretty good, pretty interesting, right? So it's good thing we have two drivers. So one drives coming up and the other one drives coming down. But yeah, it's a good experience. Yeah. When we reach at work, right, at BSI, the trip is already preloaded. So we only take down the truck. It takes us roughly around 7 hours to get here to Big Creek. Then when we get here to Big Creek, we have to break down the two double trailers, right, and dump them in the sugar house one by one, hook it up back, then hit the road again. And well, we just do all of that to get ready for this big shipment, right? Then right now, well, then we're just dumping everything and so the ship will take it.
On this occasion, the Melbourne Spirit is loading 30,000 tons of raw bulk sugar for shipping to Europe. This entire process will be repeated once more later during the crop with another charter. For Out and About, I'm Jeremy Gongora. Back to you, William, with more On the Grind.
With that, we have come to the end of our first episode of On the Grind. We hope that it has been the right amount of edutainment, education, and entertainment on the northern sugar industry. It is our hope that you will like, share, and comment as we shine a light on the workings of the industry. Speaking of that, did you know that our theme song is actually nothing but factory sounds harvested by Sector 9 and arranged to capture the industrial symphony that is Tower Hill? Listen carefully, and when the siren sounds, know that we're only changing shifts because we stay on the grind 24/7 on the clock. Until next time, I'm your host, William Neal. Thank you for tuning in.